Hey everybody, good morning, Tracy Brown here, or afternoon, whenever you're listening or watching this video. So today is the third installment of our Working with Our Relationship with Movement video series. So this is the last one, this is number 3. And so in the first video, we talked about just in general relationship with movement and how it can get, how it gets skewed and the back and forth that some of us go through, you know, in terms of knowing what we like to do, doing it not compulsively, not doing it out of rebellion, whatever. And yesterday was about compulsive movement and what we can do about it. And so today is the last one about struggling to get moving. And I think it worked out that I'm in my office today where all my awesome, lovely clients and dietitian trainees get to see me and work with me a lot. Because for a couple reasons is somebody's working on the roof again next door, so it's loud outside, which I'd prefer to be, but it's too loud. And then second, like, this is the chair I sit in every day, multiple hours a day. So, and I like it. I got a nice little pretty soft blanket. It's good if you don't have one around you. I suggest everyone get a good, nice, snuggly blanket to have sensory perspective, to feel comfort. That's what I use it for. So I highly recommend it. But anyway, I spent a lot of time in this chair, and I actually have to remind myself too. Luckily, at this point in my life, I'm pretty good at trying to stay in my body and notice things when my body needs to move. And if you see my videos, I move, just sway sometimes, and it just kind of happens because I feel like I need to. But certainly getting up. So before we talk about strategies, I want to talk a little bit more about how come it is, and we talked about this a couple seconds yesterday, is how do we get to that place where it's like, I don't really move that much anymore, or I'm afraid to move, or I don't know if I want to move, and I don't know what that looks like. So again, if you're somebody who's struggling on the more I can't stop moving end of things, this video is for you too. And just so you know that I don't want you to have to get to this place. I know I certainly did, but it's inevitable. If you push yourself and your body too far, if you don't listen to your body and rest when you need to, eventually your body will stop. And it'll be difficult to move because one, you'll be too tired, your body will be too burned out, you'll feel too weak, and none of that stuff is ideal, obviously, right? And fun. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this is not my issue, well, I don't want it to be, but it could be. And it's just a loving warning of I want you to take some of my suggestions from yesterday and use them. So how do we get to this place where we talked about yesterday, we were born to want to move? I know some people will tell me I'm actually literally in my most normal position, not wanting to move that much. And I think that happens somewhere down the line because we have gotten burnout, because maybe we've not felt safe to be seen and heard, so it's a safer position to stay still and kind of hide out a little, if that makes sense, so we're not as noticed. And it sounds kind of weird. What's this got to do with exercise? But when our bodies get into this kind of functional freeze kind of place for all kinds of good reasons, we don't really want to move much. We kind of get into this inertia a little bit because we get too overwhelmed by other things. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. What are some of the reasons why it gets harder for us to even feel the inklings to want to move? There's lots. Again, I'm going to talk about the burnout. I think that happens for a lot of people. So let's say that you're a person who is a child athlete, and that kept going, and there was just so much pressure to either be really good at something and constantly push yourself past the point of this is enjoyment, and there's not much other outlet for enjoyment. That can happen, or you're just like, as soon as I finish this thing, I've seen this a lot from athletes I've worked with in the college level. They're just like, I'm done. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be forced to do anything I don't want to do ever again. And so there's this hesitance, this resistance, because of how much things were forced and how much pressure was put on it to make it mean something about making other people proud, or just the physical burnout. Anyway, sorry about that, froze. So there's the mental, emotional, and physical burnout from being overworked, whether it's overworked or it's overmoved. That can happen. Some of the things that kind of stem from childhood sometimes are things like, just, if you happen to be a person who has and I don't say this, we all have different motors, and some of us just aren't the kids that they wake up in the morning, they're going to bust out the door and go outside and explore or play or shoot hoops or whatever. Some of us, our interests are just a little bit more sedentary, maybe, or quiet, like reading and art and things like that. So you may not have had other kinds of encouragement just to find something you like to do. Or I know in some cases people are in areas where there's a lot of access to things. So that can kind of like over time contribute to like, this is just the way we live, and maybe there's some inkling to move, but it doesn't feel accessible for some kind of reason. A lot of people don't want to move because they just got left out of things for all kinds of reasons, whether it's not being as good at things and not being as chosen as much. So it's like it almost kind of shuts that. Maybe they did have a desire to participate down, but they really weren't included and didn't know how to just kind of get their way in. That can happen. And I would also say that there are times where, maybe we've gotten a habit of having some kind of big push, work-wise or intellectual-wise, to get some stuff done, and we kind of put aside our needs, and then it becomes like this kind of new way of operating that we got ourselves in, and we forgot what it feels like to move and all that. And the last thing I would mention, there's other things, all kinds of nuances, and everything I just talked about. For every list, there's probably like 5 to 10 more nuances I could talk about, but then we'd be on the video all day long. So anyway, the other thing I would talk about is, when we've had some unwanted overwhelm or circumstances within our body, it's going to be difficult to maybe want to even be in our bodies to move. And so you can guess what I'm talking about, like trauma and all those kind of like places that make us go into this freeze kind of place sometimes, that we just don't want to be in our bodies. And if that's your circumstance, I highly recommend you don't push it further than you have the window of tolerance for that. This may be your opportunity, like, I'm not going to force myself to do things until I feel safe and supported enough to do it. So anyway, I wouldn't want anybody to feel like overly triggered. That being said, I think it's important when you're struggling to get going and you want to. And this video is also about like, if you are at a place where you're like, I'm not interested in movement, the only part of me that like is even watching this video is because I feel like I should out of health. And so I would say like, yeah, that's not a good reason. It is, it's a reason why many of us move, but it doesn't mean that there's a should or a moral imperative on that. Never. Your value and worth is not based on like, how active you are on a daily basis. So you can live your whole life and be a wonderful, and you are. I know you all are listening to this. I know you're wonderful and a worthwhile person, even if being regularly active is not your thing for all kinds of reasons. That being said, if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, I kind of want to get moving, and I still have that critical voice like, oh, you're not doing good enough, you should be moving, this would help me most with my health. Especially, I know this is difficult for people who have some diagnosed stuff that they are told that movement would help. There's a lot of internalized being kind of guilting yourself and judging yourself because you've gotten that outside of yourself that makes it even harder, which I think also drives some of the hesitance. It's like, who wants to be guilted and like, okay, if you just move more, then this wouldn't be a problem. Guilt doesn't, and self-hatred doesn't change anybody's behaviors. That's not a good motivator. So here we are to talk about, okay, I don't want to be motivated out of fear, out of self-hatred. So my suggestion is, if this is something that's important to you and you want to be able to come to movement in a curious and maybe more playful and less stringent, stressed kind of way, the first step is like examining what are your beliefs about what movement has to look like. If you believe that like a good workout has to look like 30 minutes on a treadmill, or a certain amount of weights, or a certain amount of days of CrossFit, or a certain amount of minutes, whatever it is that you're interested possibly in doing, well, again, it's going to be like a diet. It's not going to be sustainable. If you're trying to use exercise, as we talked about yesterday, as a way to burn calories, the more you move, the more hungry you're going to be. So we got to kind of put that aside as well. And it's more about, talk about yesterday too, intrinsic values. Like, what is it are you wanting to accomplish? Wanting to feel less stiff, wanting to be able to go up the stairs, wanting to be able to do some physical thing that's kind of outside of the fitness realm, like go skiing or hiking. For me, one of my motivators is like, I want to be able to put my suitcase myself over my head onto the overhead compartment if I travel, because sometimes people help you, sometimes they don't, and I want to be able, for as long as my body is capable, to be able to do that. Now, there might be a time where if I'm 90 and I'm still flying, I may or may not do that anyway. No matter how hard I try, I can't control that, but try to do the best I can with the body at the ages and abilities it has. So, these videos about movement always take into account, like, no matter how much you like to be able to do certain things, some of us are only going to be a certain threshold of able-bodied, and I understand that. If you have chronic pain or some kind of anything going on, then we're going to have limitations. I think we have to accept that as well, and that's part of this. So anyway, step one, if you're struggling with kind of getting going and that's something you are wanting to do, is if you're like me and you sit a lot, even though you love what you do, you sit a lot, then sometimes it's available, like, what do you notice in your body? Like, how often does it actually want to move? And for me, I can, after about 2 hours of sitting, like, I have to move. Ideally, if I can have my body get up out of this chair every hour, that works for me really well. And that doesn't mean I go and do something outside. It just means I might get up out of this chair and just stretch. Sometimes just like walking around the house, sometimes it's going outside, and just getting more out of here and being more embodied all the way. And that's something that, like, the more you do it, the more you start to notice other pieces and parts that will give you more signals about what you want to do. So I'm going to share a few examples as well. I've had a few clients that, like, they weren't ready to go out into the world, and maybe they had, like, their one day I'd like to be able to do X, Y, Z. But for now, what feels good to me is just to be around maybe people doing things that I might like to do. Let's say swimming, and maybe you're not the place you're ready to swim in public yet, but you love to, but you're not there. What it would be like for you to just be around water for a bit. What would it be like for you to watch people swim? What would it be like for you to get a swimsuit that you really love, that fits you well, and get it and just have it, maybe even wait around your house, and then eventually work your way to the place where you figure out a time and an activity that you'd like to be doing. Now, if you have your own pool, that's awesome. Go for it anytime you want. No, there's not even any guidelines about how you should do that. It's more about making it feel like it's all choice. All choice, no judgment, no amounts, just getting, taking the little micro steps to get you to the place where something might feel good for you. Some of you think, like, I don't need to do that many steps. I just know what I want to do. I just don't do it. I'm like, well, there's always barriers then. What I see in the majority of my clients who once had activities they really like to do, they just don't do them, typically they let work. They let like getting stuff done and achievement and accomplishment, that's the thing that gets them stuck. And we often forget that it's like, wait a minute, won't we be more grounded and maybe even more clear-headed if we allow ourselves to do the things our body feels like doing, and then to come back to things in a more grounded kind of way? Might that be the thing that makes you more productive? So we're just trying to, like, think about things from a different angle. Who says that, like, if you go take a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, do some stretching, do some Pilates, do some hula hooping, whatever it is you like to do, walk the dog, that's going to actually impede you getting stuff done. And that's what I see to be the most, probably number one. And number two would be, I don't know what I like to do anymore. And number three is, like, I just don't like to be in environments where there are the potential to be shamed or berated or told, like, good job, you're here at the gym, and you've been working out for 20 years. Just because you're not thin doesn't mean that you're not fit. And so I understand why people don't want to face that. How lame is that, to have to go somewhere and people make assumptions that you're not fit? Well, you're outlifting everybody else. So I totally get that. So it's more about what you want to accomplish and from your activity, and figuring out, okay, what is it that I truly would be interested in doing, and giving ourselves permission to do it in a way that feels like there's nothing external that's telling you how you should be or how you should do it. That it's very much coming from you. You know, so if you're like, I'm not ready to leave the house, I don't want people seeing me in my movement, it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do in your house? And I had a lady one time I have a bike, I actually kind of like it. I like to talk to my cats, read a book, watch TV, it's relaxing. But she had all or nothing, as often we do. I'm not doing anything, and I think I should do 30 minutes or 45 or an hour. And she had to see where that came from, how that belief was actually even hindering her, and then let herself not judge how much she actually wanted to do. So maybe that was only a minute or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and maybe it was 2 days in a row and then a day not doing it, or 4 days in a row and then 3 days not doing it, or whatever it was. Letting yourself come to it in a way that felt good for her. And when it feels good to you in terms of movement, you're more likely to want to do it. Now, I know that there are people like, well, getting more fit doesn't always feel good, and that's totally true. At the beginning, it doesn't feel easy. I mean, you have to acclimate your lung capacity. I know there are people that, again, we have all different either strengths or limitations with our physical activity. Some of us are more made for power, some of us are more made for endurance, whatever. And again, we have to accept those kind of things too. What I would say is, I get it, if there's something you're really interested in doing in the beginning, to get better at it, it's going to be difficult. So if you want to be better at climbing stairs and not being winded, instead of judging yourself for like, oh, this is really winding me and this should be easier, it's like, well, who says that should be true? If you haven't been doing things for a while, I think of course you're going to be winded. What if we just focused on like, okay, so I'm going to take some more stairs, so I get and focus on the journey of like, it's getting easier, versus, oh, this is going to be hard and basically this is hard and I suck. That's not going to help you. So again, I could talk about this topic for an hour and help anybody unpack these certain things. So tomorrow is my Q&A on Friday, so 8:30 a.m. ish. It might be 8:35. So just kind of keep aware. If you haven't got me on your little notifications, like when I go live, then maybe you want to do that. But Q&A, so we can talk about anything you want to. You can leave me questions now too, and I can when you tag me, and I'll give you a response after this. But you can also, if you have any questions for tomorrow about giving movement, I don't have a topic planned for Fridays. It's just questions that people might give me throughout the week that they don't put it here live for me to see. They just more email me or private message me. That's totally fine. I'm going to answer those. I have one so far that I'm going to talk about tomorrow that a watcher asked me to talk about, so I'm going to. And anything else you have. So it may just be that one topic like last week, or it could be multiple that I get through, plus anybody who's live who has a question I'm going to answer. So I hope this was helpful. I want you to remember that I have been uploading all these videos onto my YouTube channel for the last several years. So if you don't want to have to go back through past videos to find something that interests you on Facebook, you can go to YouTube, and those are all listed on there as well. So got lots of them there for you all to take in. So if anytime I do a video that's not quite like your thing, what really resonates for you at this very moment, maybe it would have 2 years ago, but now it's like, I'm good with that. Check over there, because I've got lots of stuff of all kinds of topics, anything related to body image, recovery, intuitive eating, health at every size. And you all know me, I'm kind of a nuancy kind of person, so I like to take a topic and pick one nuance and thread and go with it, and that's the video. I don't tend to try not to skip all around constantly all the time, and I want something that's a theme and go with it. So I hope that's helpful for y'all to know, and I think that's it. So I hope I see you all tomorrow if you're watching, and have a great day. Take care.